What if Christ was never meant to be just a name, but a frequency? Not a person in history, but a vibration that has echoed across time, hidden in plain sight, buried not in churches, but in ancient Egyptian temples, whispered not from pulpits, but from Gnostic scrolls found in desert caves. What if the true essence of Christ was encoded in symbols older than Christianity itself? Ancient Egyptian texts spoke of a divine force, not unlike the Logos, that brings life into form through sound. They knew the power of the word, the vibration, the sacred frequency that could align heaven and earth within the human soul. And the Gnostics? They didn't just worship Christ, they sought to become him, not as followers of a man, but as receivers of a cosmic signal that awakens the divine spark within. This isn't about religion, it's about resonance, a secret that was buried under dogma and fear, a melody so powerful it could free the human soul from illusion. If only we could tune back in. Blavatsky hinted at it, Jung explored it, and now, more than ever, we're being invited to remember it. So the real question is, why was this Christ frequency hidden, and how can we retrieve it now? The answers lie not in what you've been told, but in what ancient mystics, forgotten philosophers, and desert prophets left behind. And maybe in what's been quietly vibrating inside you all along. What if Christ wasn't a figure locked in the past, but a living melody, a vibration that still hums quietly beneath the noise of daily life, just waiting for someone to stop, listen, and remember? The ancients called it the Logos, the word. But it wasn't just a spoken word, it was a frequency, a sound that shaped worlds, not with volume, but with vibration. When ancient texts say, "In the beginning was the word," they weren't being poetic, they were being literal. Everything was born from that sound, and maybe, just maybe, that same sound is still echoing, somewhere deep inside you. For those who see beyond matter, Christ isn't just a historical figure or a religious label. It's a frequency, a current that pulses through the cosmos, filled with unconditional love, awakened consciousness, and divine intelligence. It's not a story you read in scriptures. It's an energy you can tune into right now. It doesn't require a church, a name, or a ritual. It only asks for one thing: alignment. The signal is already broadcasting. The question is, are you on the right station? The Gnostics knew this, the Neoplatonists too, and they weren't alone. Theosophy speaks of the Christ not as a man, but as a solar principle, a divine light that dwells in every soul searching for truth. It's like there's a sacred button within each of us, labeled divine memory, but most people don't even know it exists, let alone how to activate it. And yet, once in a while, something stirs, a moment of deep clarity, a rush of pure love, a shared silence that feels eternal. In those moments, something vibrates differently. You don't need to explain it. You feel it. That's the mystery. That's the frequency. Have you ever noticed how a hug given with genuine love can heal something invisible? Or how a word spoken with real intention can echo for days? Even a single breath in silence, if truly felt, can become sacred. This isn't magic from another world. It's the sacred within your own world. The divine isn't distant. It's intimate. And to start tuning into it, you don't need to move to a monastery or renounce the modern world. You just need to start listening differently. Deep listening, not only to what others say, but to what you feel while hearing it. Listen to music that lifts your spirit. Read a sacred text with your heart wide open. Whisper a mantra in silence, not as a chant, but as an offering. Try saying Om Christos softly, with presence. Feel its vibration. Don't analyze it. Witness it. Notice what shifts. Because Christ isn't something that comes from outside. He doesn't need to arrive. The truth is, he never left. He's hidden in the margins of your soul, between every breath and every heartbeat. And maybe, just maybe, he goes by other names. Maybe he's been speaking to you all along, just in a language you forgot how to hear. Ready to remember? Imagine a civilization that didn't just observe the cosmos. They listened to it. A people who believed the universe wasn't made of matter, but of music. The ancient Egyptians didn't separate the sacred from the scientific, or the physical from the spiritual. To them, everything was vibration. Every god, every temple, every ritual was tuned like an instrument in a cosmic orchestra. Their entire world was built around the power of sound, not metaphorical sound, actual frequencies. They didn't just build temples with stone, they sculpted acoustics with intention. Every chamber, every hallway, every corridor was designed to resonate, not with echoes, but with energy. The Serapeum of Saqqara wasn't just a burial site, it was a vibrational chamber. Step inside and you can feel it, as if the stones themselves are still humming with memory. Their priests were more than spiritual leaders, they were sound engineers of the soul. They used sacred words called hekau, not as poetry, but as codes, keys that unlocked specific states of consciousness. These weren't random chants, they were frequencies handed down through initiations, fine-tuned across generations, and if spoken carelessly, a hekau could lose its power entirely. Because for the Egyptians, language was never just communication, it was creation. A single mispronounced word could misalign the entire ritual, just like a mistuned note can throw off a symphony. Precision mattered. Vibration mattered. Because vibration was the divine. And behind their most sacred myths, deeper truths were hidden in plain sight. Take Isis and Osiris. They weren't just dramatic legends, they were metaphors for energetic forces. Osiris, the fragmented principle of chaos and death, torn apart. Isis, the harmonizer, gathering his pieces and using her voice to restore him. She didn't use tools, she used tone. Her sound reassembled his spirit. And from that act, Horus was born. The higher self, the light, the resurrected vibration. This was more than mythology. It was a formula, a guide to heal what's been broken, not with logic, but with resonance. A blueprint for inner alchemy. Think about your own life for a moment. Have you ever heard a song that pierced straight through your heart? A single note that made you cry for no clear reason? That's not just emotion, that's frequency memory. The Egyptians would say, your soul was remembering something ancient, a vibration that belongs to your original blueprint. That's why sound heals in ways medicine can't always explain. Why the right tone can shift your entire energy. And it's why sacred sound is making a quiet return through solfeggio frequencies, crystal bowls, mantras, and binaural beats. Different names, same source. It's all part of a vibrational lineage stretching back thousands of years. You don't need a granite temple to feel this. Sit in the dark, close your eyes, hum a single vowel, slowly and fully, like ah. Feel where it lands in your body. Is it your chest, your throat, your head? That's not random, that's your body responding. Like a tuning fork, remembering its original tone. Now imagine that same sound amplified through sacred architecture, encoded symbols, and pure intention. That's what the ancient Egyptians were doing. And the best part? You are the temple now. Your breath is the chant. Your body, the altar. Because here's the secret. The Christ frequency didn't just begin in Bethlehem. It didn't need a name to exist. It was there in Egypt, encoded in the language of sound. It was there in the voice of Isis, in the chanting of the priests, in the walls of the temples that still whisper if you're quiet enough to hear. And it never stopped. It simply changed its form, waiting for those with inner ears to remember. The sacred wasn't lost, it was hidden, preserved in vibration, waiting for you to resonate. Deep within the sun-baked sands of ancient Egypt, long-forgotten scrolls rested in silence, undisturbed for nearly 2 millennia. It wasn't by accident. Some knowledge chooses when to be found. And when the Nag Hammadi texts finally surfaced in 1945, they didn't simply offer new pages of history, they opened a doorway into an older, stranger wisdom. These were the Gnostic Gospels, writings that didn't aim to preach or convert, but to awaken. They weren't written for the crowd, but for the seeker. Their message wasn't about building cathedrals or bowing before distant gods. It was about remembering a flame buried inside you, one you may have forgotten was ever yours. In these texts, the figure of Christ appears not as a distant, flawless deity demanding worship, but as a voice reminding you of your own divine inheritance. He doesn't beg for followers. He issues a challenge. If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. That sentence alone could dismantle centuries of dogma. It's not about religion, not about belonging to a system. It's about resonance. It's about finding the frequency inside yourself that vibrates in harmony with what the ancients called the divine. And you don't need a temple, a pulpit, or a polished sermon to access it. You need silence. You need courage. You need a willingness to turn inward, to face both your shadows and your spark. When Jesus says, "He who has ears, let him hear," it wasn't mere poetry. It was a signal, a code, an invitation to those who could sense the world beneath the world, the sound beneath sound. The Gnostics understood that the body wasn't just flesh, bone, and breath. It was a living antenna, a tuning fork for sacred frequencies. Through meditative stillness, rhythmic chanting, and quiet contemplation, they believed one could attune to what they called the Christ light. And that wasn't a metaphor. It was an experience. Not belief, but direct knowing. Gnosis. A raw, undeniable contact with something ancient and infinite that didn't require permission from any priest or permission slip from tradition. We've all brushed against it. Those strange, crystalline moments when everything slows down, when the veil between the seen and unseen thins, and you feel yourself both small and eternal in the same breath, standing at the ocean's edge at night, staring into the eyes of a stranger and seeing yourself, watching sunlight filter through leaves like liquid gold. These aren't coincidences, they're reminders. And according to the Gnostics, these moments aren't random gifts from above, they're ancient echoes from within, proof that you, even now, carry a spark of the original flame. So how do you tune yourself to that frequency today? You don't need to disappear into the desert or memorize ancient languages. You start simple. Read the Gospel of Thomas as you would a love letter, slowly, aloud, with pauses between the words. Don't rush to understand. Let the phrases sink into your chest. Notice which ones land differently, which ones pull at something buried. Write them down, sit with them. No phone, no noise, no checklist. 5 minutes of stillness with a single phrase from these ancient texts can shake more loose in your soul than hours of modern distraction. Try this one. Split a piece of wood, and I am there. Lift the stone, and you will find me. Simple, unassuming, but alive. The Gnostics believed Christ wasn't a statue to adore or a relic to preserve. He was a mirror, a reflection of your own forgotten divinity. And that reflection, once recognized, changes everything. They taught that salvation wasn't a reward handed down from some invisible authority. It was a remembering, a return to the light you've always carried. That frequency, once felt, rewrites your inner world. It shifts how you walk, how you speak, how you dream. It makes you dangerous to ignorance and precious to those still searching. And though their texts were buried for centuries, their message is still breathing, waiting for anyone with ears to hear. What if your body wasn't just a vehicle, but an instrument, finely tuned, deeply sacred, and built to resonate with the divine? Ancient wisdom across cultures believed exactly that. From Indian yogis to Egyptian priests, they all spoke of energy centers, currents of light, and the music of the soul. You're not just a mind in a shell, you're a symphony in human form. And when you're out of tune, the soul feels it. Let's talk chakras for a moment. Not as exotic concepts, but as vibrational organs. Each one, from the root to the crown, is like a radio dial, picking up different layers of frequency. Ever felt your heart burn with joy or ache with grief? That's your heart chakra, vibrating, not metaphorically, but energetically. The Christ frequency lives strongest there, in the quiet roar of unconditional love. Then there's the pineal gland, that mysterious little crystal tucked in your brain. The ancients called it the seat of the soul, and modern science is still catching up. When it's activated, people report vivid visions, deep intuition, even moments of timeless presence. You don't need drugs or rituals. Sometimes all it takes is breathwork, a mantra like IAO, whispered in stillness, or focused meditation with candles and sacred sound. Silence, by the way, is a powerful tool. Not the silence of boredom, but intentional silence, the kind that feels like listening to the universe breathe. In that space, something reawakens. The body remembers it's a temple. Your cells start vibrating differently. You feel lighter, clearer, more connected. Try 10 minutes a day of sitting with hand on heart, eyes closed, and just listening. Don't expect results. Just allow. Sacred music helps too. Gregorian chants, Indian ragas, or even crystal bowls. They don't just sound nice, they tune you. Literally, put on a frequency like 432 Hz or 528 Hz and let it wash over you. Light a candle, turn off the lights, and breathe in sync with the sound. You don't have to believe in it. Your body already knows. It's not about magic, it's about memory. And maybe that's the point. The temple was never lost. It just forgot how to sing. When you begin to realign your inner frequency, something ancient wakes up. A warmth in the chest, a clarity in the mind, a gentle pulse of yes deep in your being. But why would such power be forgotten? Who would want you disconnected from your own sacred resonance? So here's the real question. If this Christ frequency is so powerful, so healing, so awakening, why don't we hear more about it? The answer isn't so simple, but it is revealing. When you realize you don't need a middleman to feel divine, you become ungovernable. That kind of freedom? It scares those who profit from control. Institutions weren't built to liberate, they were built to organize, and often to silence. Throughout history, sacred knowledge was guarded and sometimes buried. Certain sounds, chants, and rituals were banned or twisted into superstition. Esoteric texts were labeled heretical. Others were burned, locked away, or rewritten, not because they were evil, but because they were too empowering. A person who remembers they are light can no longer be manipulated by fear. Think of Helena Blavatsky and the Theosophical movement. They dared to say what ancient mystics whispered, that Christ is not a person, but a principle, a universal energy flowing through all traditions, that the light of Osiris, Krishna, and Buddha echoes the same vibrational truth. She was mocked, of course. Revolutionary voices always are, but her message still resonates. You are more divine than you were ever told. Modern life doesn't make it easy to remember that. We're bombarded by noise, literal and mental. Constant stimulation, distraction, and stress drown out the inner song. But here's a radical idea. You can reverse it. Begin by creating pockets of sacred space in your day. Turn off your phone, light a candle, listen to a mantra like IAO or Om Christos. Feel its vibration, not in your ears, but in your chest. Retrieving the frequency isn't about rebellion, it's about remembrance. It's not about leaving the world behind, but seeing through it. You start to notice symbols everywhere, in art, in nature, in dreams. You start to speak less, but say more. You're not escaping reality, you're peeling back the veil. And once that veil lifts, the old stories no longer hold you. The most beautiful part? You don't need permission to begin. The sacred was never outside. It's embedded in your cells, your breath, your being. You're not broken. You're just out of tune. And tuning back in isn't about effort. It's about surrender. But now that you've found the doorway, are you ready to walk through it?
To understand more about subjects related to cosmic rays, esotericism, theosophy, and advanced spirituality, and access knowledge little known by the general public, access the link in the first pinned comment and discover the ebook, What Are Cosmic Rays, written by Bathajal.